Good morning, traders. Welcome to Trading Together. I'm Mel Gaceee. Today is Thursday, February the 19th. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this morning. And if you're here, I would love it if you would say hi in the chat. Let's just get to know each other. This is a place to ask your questions, to grow as traders, and hopefully to take some live trades together. I'm going to watch for my setups. I'm going to let you know what I'm thinking as I'm taking them. And we will do some market analysis along the way. All right, Val Sundberg, good morning. Good to see you. And Guy is here. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. And again, if you are here and you haven't said hi yet, welcome. And drop your name in the chat. Don't be shy. Okay, we are, guess what? Where are we almost always when we start this stream? In a range. It seems like this time of the morning is very popular ranging time. So we are sitting in a range. You can see it right here. Let me get over to my chart. Basically, so here's the open. We opened with a gap down, pushed just a little bit, came down, hit a low. 682 was our low. And then we pushed up and hit a high at 686. So that's a 40-point distance as we would measure it on the SPX. And ever since then, we've just been ranging. We have tried to hit this VWAP 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and it has been rejected, meaning we've tried to break down through it, and that was rejected, and it got a push back up. However, the push has been small. We haven't yet been able to kind of beat this top. We got a little pop up through here, but there's a top kind of building right here at 685.8 that we've not really yet been able to pierce. Well, we pierced it, but we haven't been able to break it, right? Guy saying today's price action, ugh. I'm with you, Guy. I'm with you. So right now we're ranging. I'm watching for the range to break. My gut says, we'll go down today, but that doesn't mean we can't break the range to the upside. So a few things to keep in mind. We have, good morning, Gavilan. Good to see you. A few things to keep in mind. We have PCE coming out tomorrow. That is the personal consumption expenditures. That is what the feds like to use as their preferred measure of inflation. That tells the Fed how high prices are going, how high inflation is going. Now, of course, most of these reports, I'm sure you've all figured out, they don't seem to be based in reality. The reality of the average consumer is that things are very expensive. Inflation is rampant, and it's a tough go out there for the average American consumer. However, be that as it may, the Fed runs on the data, and the data is what we'll be looking at. That's going to be PCE tomorrow. That is a big deal. It could definitely move the markets, and it's also falling on the OPEX. This is options expiration date. So all options have expirations. Every option expires. Some expire daily, some expire weekly, some expire monthly, some expire quarterly. So we are going to be looking at the options that are expiring monthly. That's the third Friday of the month. And for us here on this stream, we're trading options that expire daily. But big money doesn't have that luxury. They cannot just get in and out quickly. Hedge fund managers or institutional traders cannot just get in and out quickly. They're moving millions of dollars. So if they go in there and hit the market with a sell order at millions of dollars, well, they're working against themselves, because as soon as that sell order hits, the market drops. They're not going to get a good fill. It's going to come down against them. They're not going to get out at the levels they need to get out at. So what they do is they get out in chunks, and they do this around the monthly expirations. And so we can see markets having increased volatility around these monthly expirations. They move up, they move down, they spike and they drop. And so we do see that. We are also seeing the VIX is elevated today. We've been up over 20 all day, which is elevated for the VIX. Now, in the big scheme of things, is that super high on the VIX? No. But it is slowly, as I've shown you all many times, the daily chart on the VIX, you'll see there's a rising bottom. That pattern is continuing. So as that bottom continues to rise, we are continuing to be vulnerable to these spikes on the VIX. Now, remember, the VIX is the volatility index. That is the index that tells us where is the fear in the market. As the VIX rises, it's measuring fear in the market. And so as it rises, the market is usually dropping. And as the VIX is dropping, the fear is coming down. People are getting complacent. The market tends to rise. So when we're sitting at a VIX of 20, that is decently elevated, meaning fear is kind of moving, creeping into the market bit by bit, and with good reason. We have a lot of things going on. We've got an Iran conflict happening. I don't mean conflict, military conflict. I mean, we've got geopolitical ramblings happening in that area. So oil did spike, and that is always our first signal that there's unrest going on in that area of the world when oil spikes. When that happens over there, oil does spike. So those are all the things happening. PCE tomorrow, options expiration tomorrow. Then we had the FOMC meeting minutes, basically showing dissension in the board. We've got a couple of Fed governors who want rate cuts. We've got a couple that the majority want a pause, no cut, no hike. And then a couple that want hikes. So there is dissension on the board. That's a thing. And the market doesn't like that either. So there are a few things that are making the market shaky here. And here we go. Here's a break of the VWAP. Finally, we're breaking a little bit to the downside here. We've hit this VWAP several times. Let's see how far down we can get this to go. Down 21 points. VIX is giving us a little spike here. We've got a recent low right here that it's just tagging right there. You can see the tail, the wick of this candle just tagged this recent low. So we'd like to see it come down a bit farther and stop this herky-jerky range that we've been in. That would be wonderful. Let's see if we can pull that off. There is a volume spike on this last candle, which means that there's a little bit more interest. Sometimes when we see a volume spike, we will see a reversal, but other times we just see more fuel to the fire. So let's see what we get here. Coming down a bit. Very nice. So very slow though. It's technically still in the range, even though we just sort of came through the VWAP. We are still technically in this range. And again, I would sure like to see us break out of it. So the main things I'm keeping in mind today are what I just mentioned to you. The options expiration coming tomorrow, the elevated VIX. I'm watching for potential big moves. We haven't really seen them. We got a kind of a nice move at the open to the upside. But we haven't really seen any big moves since then. As you can see, we're back up over the VWAP, back inside the range. So what I'm kind of expecting here at some point today is a big move, or more than one. And it can be to the upside or the downside or both. All right. So let's take a look at kind of what the leaderboard is telling us. The Mag 7 index is just sitting right at its flat line, just not up or down, just right flat. We've got some of the Mag 7s perking up here. So Broadcom sitting at almost 1% positive. Tesla, 0.3%, nothing major there. Microsoft, 0.2%. Amazon, 0.1%. Meta, right at its flat line. Google, right at its flat line. Apple, down about 0.3%. NVIDIA, down 0.4%. So basically, everybody's just sort of right in the middle. Nobody's really super strong or super weak as of right now. And here we are, VWAP still. Right here, this white line, that's the VWAP. And remember, VWAP stands for volume weighted average price. So it is an average of the price movement, and it's weighting that movement with volume. So whenever we've got increased volume, that gets calculated, and the price of the equity that we're looking at is getting modified a little bit by the volume that's adding weight to this price, if that makes sense. In essence, it is a moving average, in essence, with a little bit of an extra oomph to it. And usually the VWAP will act as a sort of a magnet. And you can see that happening today. And we are coming back down through it again. We've been over under the VWAP, like I said, 4 or 5 times today. But usually you can see it acting as a magnet. The price tries to come to the VWAP. So it's done that many, many times today. On days where we're trending, the VWAP is a great signpost for us. So if we're trending upward, you'll see the VWAP also trending upward, but you'll see the price staying firmly over it on upward trending days. Same with downward trending days. If we are trending down, you'll see the price down beneath the VWAP, and you'll see the VWAP start to tilt down. That kind of gives you an idea of the sentiment in the market. When we have this over, under, we are basically in indecision. We're ranging, we're sideways. We haven't decided on a direction. Now we are down today about 0.2%, which isn't much, about 15 points on the SPX, well, 17. So not hard, not down hard, not up either. So again, kind of in this flat zone is where we are. But we are watching the VIX because that is still slightly elevated. So right now, no real trade until we can figure out which direction are we going, right? If we zoom way out here, let's look at the ES. That's going to include the overnight for us and give us an idea of where we've been, and maybe that'll help us to figure out where we're going. So here is the ES, which are the futures over the S&P 500, going back to just a few days ago, so to the 17th. Let me zoom out a little bit more, and I want to make sure you guys can see this. So let me do this and make sure. Yeah, looks like you guys can see that. Good. So on our 15-minute, we see basically, when you zoom out, it really does give you perspective, doesn't it? So we've kind of been a lot of sideways going on here over the last several days. Very much sideways action, a little pop, a little drop, but very much maintaining this sideways action. Then we got kind of this push up over the last couple of days. That was on yesterday, we pushed up and then came right back down before the close, and we've kind of have not been able to recapture that high. This blue line here represents yesterday's high of day, and the blue line below represents yesterday's low of day. The yellow line represents last night's high, and this line below last night's low. So this is what we call, so far today, we call this an inside day, meaning the movement today fits inside the movement of yesterday. So these yellow lines fitting inside these blue lines, telling us that price has not been able to break the high or the low. And that's indecision, consolidation, ranging. So no true direction as long as we're having an inside day. And if we continue to just move sideways, this is a possibility. Although when we start getting closer to options expiration, we normally do see more volatility and the VIX is elevated, but it is a possibility that we just stay inside this daily range today and wait for PCE tomorrow. The market really wants to know what's going on with PCE. All right, so let's take a look at the daily, and you can see when I'm talking about this inside day, you can see it more clearly on the daily. Let me turn that off for a second. All right, so here's what we're forming so far today. You can see that since we hit the high on the 28th of January, we really haven't been able to get back up there. In fact, we're sloping down and creating lower highs. So this is kind of a negative pattern. However, we did just create a higher low. So over the last few days, what we're really getting here is a triangle. But you can see that we've not really been able to get back up there and challenge this high. We're just kind of slowly heading down. However, they're holding this bottom. So this is, again, ranging and consolidation. But here's this inside day that I was talking about. We've got the yellow lines showing us yesterday's high and low, last night's, and then the blue lines showing us yesterday's high and low. So if you look closely at the candle, you can see here's yesterday's candle. There's the high right there on that wick. There's the low right there on that wick. Then last night's candle, including today's movement, is sitting right here. This is the high of overnight. Now we came lower than the overnight low here. So that's why this wick is piercing that overnight low. But still, you see this candle doesn't look super healthy. It's looking undecided. We've got the wick up above, the wick down below, and a smaller body looking a bit undecided. So we're kind of waiting. Now, we're also right here at the close of yesterday. So yesterday we closed right in this space, right here at 68.92. And so far, the body of the candle has not been able to beat yesterday's close. That's a little bit bearish. However, we're not super far down either. So roughly sitting in indecision, making a consolidating triangle. And if I draw it for you, it'll be maybe a little more clear. You'll see what happens with a triangle is like this. So you can see how this upper line is coming down, and I could move this line out. It would still be the same thing. I could move it up to here. It's still basically the same thing. Basically, we are forcing price into the nose of the triangle. And that is a consolidation pattern. It's also building energy. So when you see price start to consolidate like this, there's energy building underneath. And what will happen is this price will either come down and break through the bottom of this triangle, or it will push up and break through the top. Right now, it's sitting in indecision, and we don't have any strong momentum yet today. Nothing really forcing us one way or the other, just sitting here, right here in indecision. So there you go. That's the big picture analysis. My feeling is we should drop, but that doesn't mean we can't break to the upside first. I am anticipating a drop, a decent sized drop, and I'll show you what that looks like. Let me move over to the SPX. And here's our daily. Oops, I've got my wrong drawing tool on. There we go. All right. So on the SPX, today's candle looks green, and that's because the SPX doesn't run all night. So the ES, the futures, has been running all night, and so that candle is red, but the SPX just opened It doesn't run overnight, opened this morning at 9:30 Eastern, and that's why it's giving us a green candle, if that makes sense. But you can see here that overall, since really October, yes, we got a strong dip in October, but really since October, this level right in through here has been um, really where we've just lived, right? We just keep coming over and under this level here. 68.50 on the SPX is a big level. You can see we held it yesterday to the tick. You can see we dropped below it today, but recovered it. You can see when we were below it, it pierced it a couple of times. So it is an important level, and we are watching it. But basically, we are seeing, if we zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see it's looking a little bit weaker, right? So this kind of that same downward movement I just showed you on the ES, here it is. And that same triangle is also here. Although we have a little bit, this is what's different about the SPX. We are getting a little bit of a lower low on the candle from the 17th, just a hair, just a hair. But it doesn't look like the ES candle with that kind of that higher high. It looks a little bit suspicious. And so if this is going to continue downward, we'll get another lower low, and this will begin a trending channel downward, which is what it sort of looks like it wants to do. But we don't know that yet. And it could certainly turn and push right back up to the all-time highs because we are still in this zone. We cannot really make a decision. Are we bullish? Are we bearish? Until this range breaks. And it's been going on, like I said, since October. So we really have to be patient and wait. And it's a decent sized range. We're looking at basically 300 points, 250, well, 225 points range. So it's a decent sized range. And that's why we've been able to stay in it for so long. We're just bouncing like ping pong balls in and out, or, up and down to the top and bottom of this range. So that is where we're sitting. And again, here we are on, today's just doing the sideways, the sideways mamba, not really going anywhere yet. All right, let's get back to our minute chart. So here you go. Here's our top so far for today. We did get that little pop through, but we could draw a line here. Right here. This is where we've been hitting the top. We pierced a little bit, but just topping out right here. Pierced it a little bit right here. And then we've got kind of a bottom. This is our true bottom, but we've got kind of a interim bottom kind of sitting roughly, I'm going to put it right here. So this is kind of the range we're stuck in, and we really want to see it break one way or the other. I think it will today. Like I said, with the elevated VIX, we just came under 20, so we're sitting at 19.8. But with the elevated VIX, I think we should move out of this range today. However, it is possible that we stay sideways as the market waits for PCE. Okay. Change my drawing style back. All right, so how do we trade this? Can we trade this range? So here are some of my rules for trading a range. What I want is I want the range to be big enough. Usually I like the range to be about 20 points. That's kind of 20 points or better. Those give us more room to hit our targets. This range that we're in right now is roughly 75 to 58. So almost 20 points. Could we consider trading this range when it comes up here and hits the top? Could we buy puts? Yes, we could. It's a little dangerous. It's not quite a 20-point range. When it comes down here and hits the bottom, can we buy calls? Yes, we could. but we've got to be careful. We definitely have to be careful because at any point, don't forget, at any point, the range can break. So that's another thing. All right. So getting another little move back down here, still ranging. And here's the thing, you don't really know how long these ranges can last. They can last for hours. And we see this happen almost every day at different times of the day. We see a range form. And usually I think that has a lot to do with how many people are trading 0 DTEs. Remember, every option has an expiration, and what I trade is 0 DTEs. That means the options that are expiring today. Remember that if you buy an option as the buyer of the option and you don't get out of that option by the expiration of that option, you're out of money. If you don't sell it, that thing expires worthless. So that is an important point to remember. And so the 0 DTE market has taken off. There are a lot of people trading 0 DTEs. And so I think a large part of this sideways range bound movement has to do with taking money from retail traders, taking money from 0 DTE traders in the way of theta. So theta is what we call the time decay. So as you buy an option that expires today or whenever it expires, but let's say today, as we get closer to that expiration, the option loses money. So you buy the option here, maybe it costs you $200, $300. As we get to expiration, the value is doing this. Pretty much regardless of what the market is doing, the value is coming down because you're losing your time value. We call that theta. So a lot of this range-bound behavior, I think, happens because as they draw the market sideways, you are losing money on your option. Well, guess who makes money on that option? The person who sold it to you. Who sold it to you? That's a great question, right? Well, of course, the market is enormous and huge, and there are buyers and sellers all over the world, but your broker usually takes the other side of your trade. Can you believe that? They do. Look it up. And believe it or not, they're kind of rooting for you to fail because they're taking the other side of that trade. So if they're selling you the option, and if theta is our enemy as the buyer of the option, theta is their friend as the seller of the option. So as that option moves sideways, as the price moves sideways, you are losing money. They're gaining money because they sold it. So that's the idea of theta. That's the idea of time decay. That's the idea of main idea of buyers and sellers. Okay, nice break of the VWAP here. I'm liking that. Finally, let's see if we can hold this or break through this bottom. We've tried several times unsuccessfully. However, I do think we should get a drop today. We are in a drop. We're down, 20 points. But my personal thought is we should drop more. However, look at what happens. Every time we hit this bottom here, we seem to get a bounce. Think of levels as kind of a door getting kicked in. The more times you hit it, the weaker it gets. We have hit this level again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 5 times. This is the 6th time we've hit this level. Maybe they're going to kick the door in this time. Let's see. Let's see if we can get it. That would be nice. I'd like to get out of this range. All right, if we drop down and we lose some of these lows here, I might consider a put. I would look at the 685 puts here is what I would look at. If we break through this bottom here. So far, no cigar. But I think this level is weakening. I hope. Of course, we've hit the top level how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4 times we've hit the top level as well. So if we bounce up back here to the top, we certainly could push up through the top level as well. And that's why the ranges are so hard to trade. We got to wait and let the market show us its hand. I like to think of the market as wearing its baseball cap and its sunglasses, playing poker with us, not showing us which way it's truly wanting to go today. So it will show its hand. It's going to have to. But so far, it's not. Right now, it's still got its sunglasses on. That's how I think of it. All right. We did get a little nice bounce here on the VIX. We got back up over 20 again. You can see the VIX sort of descending a little bit here. So that's something to be aware of. If the VIX is moving down very slowly and quietly, that could mean that we're setting up for a push upward in the market. So like you can see it right here, right? The VIX looking like it's in a downward channel, whereas the market looking like it's in a sideways channel. We don't see that downward or the upward push that the VIX is kind of insinuating. So as we sort of build this downward channel, we could be setting ourselves up for a push upward. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Let's take a look at volume. Back up over the VWAP again. Here we are again. Take a look at our volume. Big volume sitting right here at the 685 calls, right where we are. That's the biggest volume on the options chain right now, 685 calls, followed by 686 calls, followed by 684 puts. So heavier skew to the call side, but we do have some put representation here. We've got volume building all the way up to 690. It is possible that we could see them push this all the way up to 690. That's 50 points overhead, but it is possible. Remember, on the options expiration, anything goes. This thing can swing wild both ways. All right. Another little test of the VWAP here. I'm going to go check the gamma real quick. Okay, we're sitting in a little bit of negative gamma here. 2.4 billion in positive call gamma, 2.6 billion in negative put gamma. We have our put wall sitting at 680 and our call wall sitting at 690. That's where it's been most of the day. It's shifted a little bit. Actually, let me make sure I've got a good refresh on this. Make sure I've got the most current numbers. Okay, yeah, negative gamma, but the put wall is moved up a little bit to 684. We do still have significant gamma sitting at 680, but the put wall is moved up a little bit at 684, with the call wall still sitting at 690. However, the gamma is more skewed to the negative side, basically meaning, all that's kind of fancy way of saying, the market right now is hedging to the downside. That's basically all that gamma is telling you. Where is the market hedging? The market is hedging right now, mostly to the downside. All right, so still just kind of sitting here on just over the VWAP, still in the range. No trades for me yet. Our VIX, again, is kind of giving me some clues. Got these lower lows happening on the VIX. So that is definitely something to be aware of. Making some lower lows here. We're not really making higher highs on the price yet. So that's something just to be, there's a little bit of a divergence. I'm just going to keep my eyes on it. Back to the VWAP. Let's see if we come back down and test the bottom again. Very cat and mouse today, just inside the range. At some point it'll break, and this is this is kind of a hard part of trading, right? You sit there and you watch these ranges form for, well, let's see, 10 to an hour and a half. They've been playing inside this range, and you get kind of like, you know how you get hypnotized when you're driving on a road trip and you see that highway stretching out in front of you and it's just nothing but highway. That's kind of how trading in the range feels to me. We're just kind of going nowhere, just staring down this long stretch of highway. And you get up to, you get sick of it, you want to rub your eyes, you want to get a cup of coffee, and you come back and boom, we've moved 70 points. That's the challenge of trading, right? You got to sit here for an hour and a half or 2 hours or however long they're going to play this game. And you got to be prepared for that split second move that changes everything. And so, some people that hate staring at the charts, this is torture for them. I don't mind it. I love watching the charts. I just love trading, even on the boring days. But I'm keeping a little eagle eye here. You can set alerts on your chart. Those of you that have Thinkorswim, you can set alerts on your chart. Alert me when we hit 684, for example, right? These are kind of our little bottom here, roughly. Alert me when we hit that level, and you can hear it. You can also, I believe, Thinkorswim lets you set up text alerts. So that's handy. If you do need to go do something else, you can set your alerts, and that's helpful. All right, just playing right here at the VWAP. No break yet. I mean, under it, but not really broken yet. Just kind of sitting right here. We are down 18 points on the SPX. So basically kind of a negative day, but really, like I said earlier, nobody's really dropping too hard. Our worst Mag 7 stock is Tesla, and it's only down 0.7. So nothing major for sure. All right, little bounce back up through the VWAP. Got a little bit more volume on that bar. Looks like the moving average might start trying to turn up here. But look how we're kind of building this triangle again. So let's see what happens here. Just kind of camping out right here at the VWAP so far. So again, if we take a break or make a break of this 684 level on the SPY, I might be tempted to take a put. but not until I'm sure that we're out of this range. So that's right at about the 685 puts, 684s, either one would be okay. Okay, another little break of the VWAP here. Well, test of it. And we've got our overnight low down here. We tested it once today, right after the open. Came down and tested the overnight low and bounced. We have not tried to test the overnight high yet. Doesn't mean we won't, but we have not yet. It's just, look at that. When you zoom out, it's really maddening, right? It's just do, 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 little inchworm just inching along. So it feels a little more negative to me than positive, but that doesn't mean it can't just turn and jump. It really can. All right, here we are back down to our potential test. Sitting right here is our bottom. 684.1.0, kind of right in here. No break yet. Are we getting closer? 684.2. Getting closer. You can see on this chart even a little bit more clearly how that line is forming there, support line. All right, testing it now. If they bounce this again, I'm going to scream. Don't bounce it again, just break it. You ever been in a circular conversation with somebody? You can't ever really move on to the next point. You just keep circling around to the same point. That's kind of how this range bound market is feeling, right? We keep circling around to the same point, but we're not really getting anywhere. All right. Not breaking it yet. Roberto Gaspar, good morning. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Today was terrible. It's been a challenge, hasn't it? Anybody trying to trade today, it has been challenging. I was able to make some money in the first couple of trades today, but I've been out through this sideways chop. So that, as you guys know, I treat chop like kryptonite. It is my kryptonite. And if I recognize it soon enough, I don't always, I will stay out of it. I hope you didn't lose money, Roberto. All right. Another test here. Come on now. You guys, come on, come on. Yay, there it goes. Finally. Finally. Let's keep going. Come on, push it down. If it does break to the downside, are you looking at the 685 puts? Yes, but see, look what they just did. They gave us a nice push down and a little bounce. So we got to be careful on these long red candles. I'm usually really careful of those. This is a good sign though. We finally got a break of the range. Yes, they're pushing it right back up inside the range, but this is a good omen. It's a good symbol. Looks like we could be dropping more to the downside. So let's see what we get here. Here we go. Beautiful. Nice. Little pop on the VIX here, up to 20.4. 6850 is the level they're going to try to hold on the SPX. And that big red bar pushed us right down to it. $68.50, we're sitting right on it. That's the yellow line you see right there. That's $68.50. They're trying to hold 68.50 for sure, but there's some weakness here. Absolutely. Getting a little bit of volume coming in. And breaking 68.50. All right, so I'm looking at 684 puts, and I'm looking for a break here of 68.50. I'm going to go ahead and jump in on this put right here, the 684. I'm jumping out right here, 8%. Let me know if you guys followed on that. That was a nice trade right there. Here we're testing yesterday's Low of day, right there, that's this blue line, yesterday's low of day. Good, so we broke to the downside. This is what I was hoping we would do. Got a nice quick trade out of that. All right, so looking like they're trying to hold yesterday's low of day. Let's see if we don't break it. This is a negative drop here, and these can get bigger. So we just beat this little short-term top on the VIX. Nice pop there. Yep, looks like we could break it some more. We could continue to trade maybe to the downside here. Let's see if we get a break of yesterday's low of day. I'm looking at the 683 puts. Not in them yet. Let's see what happens here with this low of day. Gavilan got 4%. We'll take it. It's a happy meal. We'll take it. Nicely done, by the way. Great trade. Right down to the morning's low almost. So see where we kind of stopped here? That's where we're sitting. We did get a dip all the way down to 682.4, but this is kind of our little stopping area right here at 682.9. Let's see if we beat today's low and yesterday's low, we could consider jumping in again. If they hold it, that's a different story. Remember, I'm still very cautious about the fact that we could just get a strong spike up as well. Usually on the days before options expiration, we can see both directions get hit. All right. A little response here at the low of day. So this is why I mark these levels. Look at how these levels get respected. Isn't that wild? The low of day got hit and respected to the tick. Now that doesn't mean we can't come down and break it again. I'm just saying these levels get interest. And that's, I think it's a lot of the algo trading, the computer high speed trading that goes on, and a lot of the, bigger money investors are using algos and high frequency trading. And those algos recognize levels. They remember them, right? So we have to remember them in our human brain, but the algos remember them. And look at that bounce. Very nice bounce here. Do we want to consider calls? My guess is they're going to try and take this right back up into the range. We're almost there. Two very strong green bars. That was a nice little dump. We made a quick little money on that. That was fun. And our VIX beat this little recent kind of resistance that it had been fighting against for a while, which was exactly the same as the top that we had over here, or the bottom that we had here. So the VIX kind of beat that and is now back down under that resistance level. So my guess is we'll probably head back into the range here, is what it's looking like to me. We're right at the bottom of the range. at 684. So do I want calls? Not really. I don't want to get calls right now. Roberto, you trading the SPX today? SPY, Roberto, but you can trade the SPX, and a lot of times I do. It'll be very, very similar. I trade first option in the money. So either one is good. Depends on your account size and what what kind of position you want to be in, right? How big do you want it to be? Because the SPX those options are going to be much more expensive than the SPY. So it really basically they're going to move very, very similar. And the charts are moving in a similar way. So you're okay going either way. You're going to get the same move, right? All right. Stopped just at the bottom of that range and reversed. Interesting. Interesting. Let's see if we're moving back down. Or are they going to build this range out down here? Let's see what they do. 68.50. That's right where we're sitting. Here we are. Right there. Bulls really, really want to hold that level. Bears dipped us down below it just for a second, and then we recovered. So are we just going to build out another range here and kind of toggle over the 68.50 level? We could. We could. So we're getting close to the end of the stream. Let's talk about I've talked about it a lot this morning, but let's talk about it one more time before I sign off. My trading plan for today, I'm a little more bearish today than I am bullish for sure. But also I'm very aware that we have options expiration and we could get a strong spike to the upside. Remember that, keep that in mind. The other thing is that we could continue much farther down. We have an elevated VIX and we've got some options positioning at higher levels on the VIX, meaning that if the VIX pops, the market drops. So I'm looking for moves to the up or the downside. I'm willing to play either direction. I'm good with calls. I'm good with puts. The one thing I'm trying to avoid here is the chop, and that's been going on pretty much all day. Even with this strong drop, what have we accomplished? Absolutely nothing, right? We came in right here in the day, gave it a little dump, gave it a big push, came sideways, came right back down. And where are we sitting right now? Right at the open. Look at that. Here's where we opened. Here's where we are. We've done a lot of nothing today. And that could be the name of the game today, because remember, the other big factor is we're waiting for PCE tomorrow. That's going to probably move the markets. That'll happen pre-market. If you trade overnight, if you hold anything overnight, be aware of that. That can affect your positions. So just be aware that that's a big deal. It could affect the markets. So be careful holding anything overnight. But for me, for trading plan for today, we are basically just doing the sideways thing for now. I'm open again to puts or calls. What I want is a break of the range. So you saw how we traded this break of the range to the downside. I waited until we broke the 68.50 level, even though it was a clear move down. I really wanted to see a break of the 68.50 level. We took that, we grabbed a quick 7%, and then boom, it bounced. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, is break of the range. So if we get up to the top, could we trade a break of the VWAP to the upside? Yes, but I'd be more cautious with it. I'd be more inclined to get calls up here above this top at 686 is where I'd want to see calls. And then to the downside, basically 683 roughly. So that's kind of my trading plan for today. Roberto, how do I trade with you at the 9:30 market open? Thank you, Roberto. Great question. I am on a private platform at 9:30 Eastern. So I don't have the YouTube stream going at 9:30. I'm sorry about that. Um, but I'm hoping to expand my live trading here on YouTube, and that's kind of a direction that I'm going in. So I appreciate you guys so much for joining. Thank you for your comments and for your questions, and glad that some of you were able to grab that trade that we made, and we'll be back again tomorrow at 11 Eastern. Roberto, how do we join? Great question. It's Roberto, let me give you an email. You can, let me drop it in the chat here. It's info@tradingtogether. Make sure I'm spelling that right. info@tradingtogether.net. info@tradingtogether.net. There you go. All right. This is where you can reach me. Guy, so far the price is respecting the 9, which is converging with the open. Yeah, crazy, right, Guy? But we're coming back down to that 68.50. This is a place I would trade again. A break of 68.50, I would trade again to the downside. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining. We'll be back again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. I appreciate you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.